Hello, strangelings. Welcome back to the parlor. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about kind of a theory I'm working on, actually. Now, I have been trying to do the things I need to do to maintain my health for a while. But part of my maintaining my health is actually figuring out why I need to do this, that, or the other, right? One of the biggest things about maintaining health, of course, is diet. Now, before I get started, let me just piss people off right off the rim and let you guys know that humans are not evolved from plant eaters. There is very large scientific evidence for this. One, a vegan who does not want to die of malnutrition eventually requires enzymes. These enzymes actually come from plant eaters, animals that eat plants. There is zero way a vegan can actually eat only plants, no animal byproduct. Zero way. That's because we never evolved the enzymes for plant eating the same way they do. We just never did. Because we were mainly carnivores that actually ate plants here and there for other such things. I know I'm gonna have plenty of vegans who do not like that. But you need to actually do your research. You really do. That's why I do these videos. Because I do research here and there. Because I get curious about things. Because I want people to know the facts of their life. And I always encourage you, especially if you don't necessarily believe that I'm telling the truth or that I know what I'm talking about, I always encourage you to fact check me. Okay, with that out of the way, I was sitting there in this last week watching a video. And I was watching a video that said something about how Americans on average are larger, more obese than any other peoples in other countries. Yes, there are some countries that have been kind of trying to catch up with us in that. But we are the highest obesity rate in the world here in the United States. Now, how we got there is we started having an obesity epidemic around in the 80s, if not maybe a little before. Now, for it to have gotten to epidemic levels is bad already. But in the 90s, they then said, we are going through a childhood obesity crisis, epidemic. Cool. I have personally a theory. You see, other countries do not allow as many non-foods in their factory foods, and fast food and factory foods is far less of a staple for the households of countries outside of the United States. So, as such, we have a bit of a problem. Now, factory foods, that would be up into the 50s, it was mostly canned goods, and then they started doing things like TV dinners, and such. So, if we want to consider for diner-style restaurants being also fast food, as in restaurants that make and pre-make a bunch of stuff so that way they can get the food out to their customers as quickly as possible. And there's a certain standard of how they get cooked. Now, most of those still to this day don't exactly ask how you want your burger made. Not that I would recommend having a burger that is in any stage of raw, by the way. And that's because my cousin Jimmy used to work for IVP, and he swears by steaks over burgers any day. Less likelihood that if the animal wasn't ill and there was something in the factory setting instead, it's less likely you're going to get it into the meat. However, if you're going to grind it up, you're going to definitely get it in there. But anyhow, so, of course, hamburger, as in ground up burger, was not a huge thing, especially pre-ground burger was not a big thing at all until these diners became popular. And of course, these diners became popular because we had more ability to move around, and so therefore we were taking trips around the country in our cars and things like that. So these diners cropped up to meet a need for food for tired travelers, and then went from there. Now, this obesity epidemic, I believe, is mainly not with the amount of food people intake, because I've heard it so many times, oh, these portions, that the American portion is not too large for an active person. Here's the key word, though. Active. Not a lot of Americans tend to be active these days. However, the obesity epidemic is far more about the quality of food than the amount. You see, obesity, as my doctor had put it when we had this discussion, obesity is not a weight issue as much as it is a malnourishment issue. You see, not all obese people are actually big. There are a lot of skinny, obese people in the world. And you don't have to overeat to be considered obese. Now, sorry about that. Now, as my doctor stated it, it is a malnourishment issue. You see, what happens is you get factory foods or foods that are nutritionally lacking. Even worse if they're nutritionally empty. You get foods that are nutritionally lacking. Your body can only process so much, especially when those foods sometimes have non-foods in them, like sawdust. Of course, if you are in the United States, you're going to read that on your ingredients label as plant cellulose. Just like, as we all know now, you're going to be getting getting oil from the glands of a beaver's ass if you want artificial vanilla flavoring. So there's a lot of non-foods that end up being in our foods. And when the body absorbs these non-foods in and cannot process them because they are not food and they have no nutritional value and there's nothing the body can do, I know a lot of people assume the first thing the body is going to do is poop it right out. No. You see, your body is not taking in nutritional value. Apologies, guys. So, as it's not taking in nutritional value, what then happens is it processes what it can, it uses what it can for what it can, but then a good portion of the rest of it actually gets stored up in the hopes that your body will figure out a way to process it, or that you will be giving it something that will help it process it. It's called starvation mode. And there are big, gigantic studies on it. Starvation mode then, of course, causes the person to grow a gut. We used to see pictures of Ethiopian children back in the 80s all of the time, especially with Sally Fields and her Struthers. I'm not sure which one of them it was. It was one of the Sallys. With their campaign to help the children. Most of that money didn't go to the children. That's why some of them survived and most of them did not. But that's a story for another day. This is what malnourishment looks like. Malnourishment looks like a giant gut. If you are not a small child and you've had years of decent nourishment, you're not going to necessarily see it in the arms and legs either. I should know, guys, because I personally threw myself into starvation mode before I even knew what it was when I was pregnant with my first child, because I was poor enough that I could not always get food when I needed it. So sometimes, just sometimes, I would go to bed, I would go to sleep, and I would hope, beyond hope, that when I woke up I could get some food, because I really was hungry. And ever since then, I've been able to eat very little. I finally was able to rebalance so that I have an appetite again. But now I've got to get into the psychological habit of feeding myself when I'm hungry. And this is a problem for a lot of people who have to deal with starvation mode and they're trying to get their body back. It's an unfortunate issue. Now, of course, I say all this because my theory is this. We started to chop up meat, grind it up, and then ship it around, keep it in freezers, freeze it for long periods of time. We super cook our vegetables, and let's be clear, some vegetables do need to be cooked. For example, if you eat soybeans raw, you are doing yourself damage. Raw soybeans is not something humans are supposed to, let alone be able to, process. That's why tofu exists. You see, tofu is fermented soybeans because the ancient Oriental peoples figured out that soybeans that are fermented are actually edible, whereas non-fermented ones are not, technically. It's no better than shoving a handful of sawdust in your mouth. Again, you guys don't trust me, that's not a problem. Go ahead and look it up. If you do trust me, let's keep going then. So, I personally have found that there are a lot of enzymes, helpful bacteria, vitamins and minerals, other chemicals that our bodies need that in fact are so much more abundant the less we cook, whether it's meat or vegetable. And again, if there's health issues involved, please make sure to take those into account. And if it's something that if you don't cook it, you will die, take that into account too. But meat is not one of those things, guys. It's not. The only way you would die by eating uncooked meat is one, if that meat was diseased, you didn't make sure that that cow or pig was healthy before getting that meat. Two, if you are allergic. And much like celiac, someone who is allergic to meat, especially in the human species, is extremely rare. In fact, I have never heard of somebody who's actually allergic to meat. I had heard that theory thrown around, but the person who was throwing that around was, let's just say they're one of those people that does their research online and internalizes all of it instead of actually thinking, is that an actual symptom I remember? Not a, let me take notes for a few weeks before I start looking this stuff up kind of person at all. So, with all this information, I am here to essentially say, I cannot tell you how to eat. I cannot tell you what to eat. However, the healthiest human diet on the planet would be the paleo diet. Now, of course, for anybody who's seen like the Paleo Valley ads where they're pushing their beef sticks and stuff, sure, it's fermented meat, but they didn't ferment meat in the Paleolithic era. They didn't cook meat, they didn't process meat. Your processed foods are not going to be Paleolithic, because the paleo diet is about eating the foods they would have eaten in the Paleolithic era. And the only kind of processing they would have had back then, if they were lucky, would be water and fire. So, and I am pretty sure personally that the people who first started cooking their meat did it by accident. Now the veg, maybe not so much, because I know you guys probably don't have experience with raw meat, but there are plenty of raw vegetables that are harder to eat than raw meat. Personally, I have plenty of experience eating raw meat. Not even touched a fire raw meat. And guys, I'm 44. Look at this. I'm 44 and I eat raw almost as much as possible. So, it's probably not a bad diet. I just wanted to give you guys the information, because vegans who believe that they can go vegan without eating any meat or any meat byproduct tend to get sick because of the fact that they don't have the enzymes to process the vegetables. Not efficiently, anyway. And when we overcook our meat, we tend to cook out a lot of the nutritional value that actually exists in it. Now, of course, when I get ground meat, I cook the hell out of that shit. I do not eat that raw, because of course, it's ground meat. Anything that was on the outside is now on the inside. Never raw meat for ground. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to put this out there for your information. I just wanted to put this out there for you to hopefully make a very informed decision about your health, too. Now, of course, like I said, I'm not here to tell you how to eat. I'm here just to give you an idea of how you might actually feel better. Because the truth is, it took me a while to figure out exactly what I needed to eat to not feel sickly. I'm one of those people who, as a kid, my circulation was far from my only big issue. The chemicals in the food also made me very, very sick. A lot. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here though, guys, because I don't know what else to say, honestly. So don't forget, it doesn't matter who you are. Of course, I love you. and to take care of each other. I'll see you guys in the next video.